Welcome back to the Teaching Communication Skills course. The content of these slides was compiled by myself, Dr. Leslie Neely, and Dr. Margot Bowles. This presentation, entitled The Picture Exchange Communication System, or PECS, Overview in Phase 1, is part of the third module in a series of 5 modules. Just to note that this work was supported in whole or part by a grant from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, the THECB. The opinions and conclusions expressed in this document are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the opinions or policy of the THECB. So we will answer the following questions in this module. First, what is the Picture Exchange Communication System, or PECS? What is the purpose of PECS? What are the phases of PECS? And how would you implement PECS Phase 1? Finally, we will conclude this module with an activity. PECS is considered augmentative and alternative communication. PECS involves the exchange of pictures in order to communicate needs and wants and to answer questions or provide statements. Applied behavior analytic strategies are used to teach communication skills using PECS. For example, incidental teaching strategies that include environmental arrangement, prompting, and reinforcement are all essential elements of the PECS system. PECS promotes communication through the use of assisted and spontaneous exchange of pictures. And PECS can be implemented in many settings, for example, the home, school, restaurant, grocery store, or other community settings. So PECS is used to provide individuals with the communication that can be easily understood by a majority of communication partners. The PECS intervention process is meant to build your child's vocabulary and sentence structure when communicating through pictures. PECS is not designed to teach verbal speech, but research has shown that some children have started communicating verbally when mastering the PECS system. So let's review the phases of PECS. There are 6 total phases of PECS. In the first phase, you will teach the exchange of the picture. In this phase, the communication partner and a prompter teach the child to communicate a want for an item with the item placed in front of them, using the picture representing that item. The second phase is to promote the use of spontaneous exchange. In this phase, the child is taught how to communicate for an item by picking up a picture and traveling a distance to hand it to their communication partner. Phase 3 involves learning the difference between pictures or discriminating between pictures. In this phase, the child is taught to identify and communicate using the correct picture out of a selection of multiple pictures that represent different items. The fourth phase involves implementing sentence structure. In this phase, the child is taught to request an item by adding the picture of the item onto the picture of a phrase, "I want," in order to create a full sentence. For example, "I want goldfish," or in this picture, "I want horse." Phase 5 starts introducing questions such as, "What do you want?" In this phase, the child is taught to answer the question, "What do you want?" by providing the picture phrase, "I want," with the correct picture of the item requested. In the 6th phase, responding to questions and spontaneous commenting. In this phase, the child is taught to comment and answer questions like, "What do you see?" "What do you have?" and also to spontaneously comment on the environment. So before we go into detail on how to implement PECS Phase 1, we will watch a short video that reviews the steps.
The objective in PECS is spontaneous communication, so the physical prompter must wait until the child has initiated by beginning to reach for the training item or the picture before providing physical guidance. If the child loses interest in the initial item, a second item and its corresponding picture are used.
Cocoa Puff.
It is important that a child learns to communicate with a variety of people, so the trainers should reverse roles or new trainers may be introduced. Training continues until the child independently picks up the picture, reaches to the communicative partner, and puts the picture into his hand without prompting or assistance. The training should end before the child tires of the rewarding item.
So how do you implement PECS Phase 1? You might have noticed from the video that they had arranged the environment to ensure that the preferred item is in sight but not in reach. So some examples of that might be placing it in a clear container, putting it out of reach on a shelf, or in the communication partner's hand. You want to make sure the communication partner is in front of your child and the prompting partner behind your child. Important to note is that the prompting partner does not speak or does not interact with the child beyond providing them the assistance to exchange the picture. And you want to make sure that there are no other items or activities close by that may distract your child. Step 2 involves enticing your child with the preferred item. So while holding the preferred item, the communication partner should play with it or consume it if it's an edible, and make it look desirable in order for your child to reach for it or request it. You basically want to capture your child's attention. Step 3 is to place an open hand. So when your child reaches for the item or makes a valid request for the item in some way, for example, if they use vocalizations like squeals, the communication partner needs to open his or her hand in order to entice the request. If your child does not already go towards the picture, the prompting partner will then initiate the prompt or the extra help. So when your child reaches for the item or makes another form of request, the prompting partner who is sitting behind your child immediately takes his or her hand and guides them to the picture. Remember that the prompting partner should not be speaking to the child or providing any sort of verbalizations. Step 5 is the exchange. When your child grabs the picture, either with the help of a prompting partner or not, the prompting partner, if needed, can assist your child in giving the picture to the communication partner in his or her open hand. Step 6 involves reinforcing your child. When the communication partner receives the picture, he or she holds the picture up to his or her mouth and says the name of the item. Immediately after naming the item, the communication partner hands the item to the child. Please note that this should all be done very quickly in order to immediately reinforce your child and decrease frustration. So some things to remember when implementing PECS is to not provide any sort of verbal prompts or cues such as, what do you want, or do you want this? You want to reward your child with the item as soon as possible. After naming the item and giving the item to your child, that is the time when you can praise your child with words such as great asking. So that is the presentation for PECS. Please make your way to Eli Academy for this week's video activity. Please note that if your child is learning the picture exchange communication system, you will practice using and teaching this system for this week's activity. Thank you for your attention. This slide contains the references that were used to create the content for these slides.